I wonder whether you've ever looked at something and thought, wow, how clever that person must have been to have made that. For some of you, it might be a really impressive Lego tower. For others, it might be a very smart car. And for some, it may be a really beautiful cake. Well, over the last few months, when we haven't been able to go outside very much, I've been really struck at how amazing God is for having made all the things that we see outside, even when we don't go very far. It all started when I was in my garden one day with my eyes closed, and this is what I could hear. And it reminded me of Genesis, when God made all living creatures in the sea and all the birds in the air. And he said that they were good. And when we went for one of our little walks, we saw more of these creatures and tiny little ducklings. And I was just amazed. And then as I started walking more around my garden, I started seeing all the beautiful flowers. They didn't just look beautiful, but they smelled beautiful, and they were attracting all the insects. And there was plants that, at the start of lockdown, weren't looking too pretty at all, but have suddenly burst into colour. And it reminded me of how amazing our God is to create such beautiful things. And it takes us back to Genesis, where God created the world, and he made plants and trees and plants that bear seed, some of which you may have in your garden too. Things like tomatoes or blueberries. And then it got me thinking about when I was going to work and I would park my car and I would walk across a river. And sometimes the river would be really fast flowing because of all the rain we've had. We have had some days with a lot of rain. And it makes me think of when God made the land and the seas and all the water. And he said that they were really good. And then there's others who've had to travel a little bit further to go to work. You may have seen it. About a month ago, 2 astronauts went into space. I watched it live. And they got to see the sun, the moon, and the stars a little bit differently to how we see things. But it takes us to Genesis, when at the beginning, God made the sun and the moon and all the stars. And he said that they were good. And he made you and me, didn't he? And isn't it amazing that all these things, from the tiny insects to the beautiful flowers to the moon and the stars, show us just a little bit of how amazing God was and is to have created all these things. And in the Psalms, a book in the Bible, it tells us that although all these things, they can't speak and they don't have a voice, but they still tell us about how amazing God is. But me and you, we do have a voice and we can use words. And it made me think of how much more then that we can tell others of how amazing God is with our voice. So I wonder whether this week, when you're on your way to school or on your way to work, maybe you could see something outside that God has made and thank him for it. Thank him for all of creation and how it points us to our Heavenly Father.